Good morning, children. Now, here we are going to study the second part of this lesson, the climate of Brazil. Okay, we have already completed with the climate of India. Here we are going to study the climate of Brazil. Now, if you look at this map, which shows you the average rainfall and temperature of Brazil, we will find that Brazil receives its rainfall from the northeast trade winds as well as the southeast trade winds. Okay. Then this dark portion that you see, okay, the dark blue color, okay, here the index will tell you the annual average rainfall received in by the various places in Brazil. The dark blue color that you see, now this region receives more than 3000 millimeters. Okay, so you can find this in the Amazon Valley. Okay, now as well as the central part of Brazil. Okay, and some regions that is here we have the Parana, Paraguay basin, etc. also receive more than 3000 millimeters. On the other hand, if you take this white portion, okay, the white portion you can find here, it is to the north of the escarpment or the Brazilian highlands. We find it receives less than 500 millimeters. Okay, this is the Drought Quadrilateral. Okay, so let's study this in detail now. Okay, now if you look at the graph, this map of Brazil, which shows you the average annual rainfall as well as temperature. Okay, what is the average range of temperature in Brazil? Okay, so if you look at this map, now what is this average annual range in temperature? Now this range in temperature is the maximum temperature minus the minimum temperature. Okay, so the maximum temperature here is 28. This is shown by these isothermal lines. Okay, so the maximum temperature we can see is 28 degrees. Okay, and the minimum temperature here is 18. So maximum minus minimum gives you the average range of temperature. So 28 minus 18 is okay, what is it? 10. Okay, so the average range of temperature in Brazil is 10 degrees centigrade. In which area does it rain more? Okay, now if you look at the map, you will find we have the northern part of Brazil, then the central part, okay, as well as southern part. So the northern, central as well as some southern part of Brazil gets more rainfall. From which direction are the winds flowing towards Brazil? Okay, now look at the index here. This blue arrow shows you major winds. Okay, so here is the direction. Okay, so this is northeast and here this is southeast. Okay, so northeast as well as southeast winds. Okay, so from which direction are the winds flowing towards Brazil? It is from the northeast as well as the southeast part of Brazil. Okay, next is, in which direction do you find a higher temperature? Okay, now where do you find a higher temperature? Okay, you can see it here is the northeastern part. Okay, as well as you can find in the northern part of Brazil also. Okay, as well as this is the northwestern, northern as well as northeastern. Okay. Okay, so in the eastern as well as northern parts of Brazil, we can find a higher temperature. Considering the latitudinal extent of Brazil, where will you find temperate climate in Brazil? Okay, now, as you know, the equator passes through Brazil. Okay, so, okay, now, this is the 23.5 degrees south. What is that? That's the Tropic of Capricorn. And we have the equator. that is the 0 degree, okay, latitude, which passes to the northern part of Brazil. So temperate climate. So you'll find between say 0 to 23.5 degree, we will have tropical type of climate. So temperate climate will be experienced beyond say the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay. So considering the latitudinal extent of Brazil, where will you find temperate climate in Brazil? So temperate climate is found in the southernmost part of Brazil. Okay. Then, which method has been used to show rainfall distribution in this map? Okay. So all of you know what this is. It is isopleth method. Okay. Now, if you look at the map of Brazil, you would have found that towards the north of Brazil, we have the equator, and then towards the south, that's 23.5 degrees, we have the Tropic of Capricorn. So beyond the Tropic of Capricorn, of course, we have the temperate latitudes. So Brazil enjoys a wide range of climatic variations. If we look at the equator, we find the temperature is very, very hot. Okay. And around the, say along the Tropic of Capricorn, it has a temperate type of climate. Now, we have already looked at the map of Brazil, and we have seen that Brazil receives its rainfall from the northeast trade winds as well as the southeast trade winds. Okay. Now, so Brazil receives its rainfall from the northeast trade winds as well as the southeast trade winds. And here, along the southeast part of Brazil, we have the escarpment. That is, the eastern part of the Brazilian highlands, we have the escarpment. So, as the southeast trade winds bring rainfall from the Atlantic Ocean, it gives plentiful supply of rain to the eastern part of Brazil. But that is orographic type of rainfall. But because of the escarpment, okay, the northern part of Brazil gets very low rainfall. That is about say 500 millimeters. So the northern part of Brazil is called as the Drought Quadrilateral. Okay, that is very, very important. Why is the northern part of Brazil known as the Drought Quadrilateral? Okay. So, the escarpment acts as an obstruction to winds coming from the sea and causes orographic type of rainfall in the coastal region. Now, as these winds move beyond the highlands, okay, that is towards the leeward side, this amount of rainfall goes on decreasing, and towards the northern part of Brazil, the amount of rainfall gets reduced. So this region is known as a drought quadrilateral. Okay. Then again you find because of the tropics, the northern part of Brazil is very hot, but it is comparatively low towards the southern part of Brazil. But along the equatorial region, the temperature, that is the, we find the range of temperature is not very much. Okay. So the maximum and minimum temperature more or less will be same. Okay. You can find it here. So look at this. This is the equator. You find, see, this is the temperature. Okay. So here you find the temperature doesn't vary much because it is near the equator. But as you move away from the equator, we find because of the amount of rainfall received by these regions, we find the range of temperature becomes more. Okay. So temperature, okay, does not vary much near the equatorial region. And the equatorial region will find the winds move in a vertical direction. And this is also the reason why a low pressure area is developed in the equatorial region, because of high temperature. And also you find the convergence or zone of the trade winds is weak here. It is because of this reason that cyclones are not formed. Or when you compare that with India, you find every now and then in the Bay of Bengal or even the Arabian Sea, we find cyclones are frequently formed. But in Brazil, you find cyclones, or rather say tropical cyclones, rarely visit the coast of Brazil. Okay, then most of the parts of Brazil lie in the tropical region. Okay, so along the equatorial region we find, okay, on either side of the equator the temperature is high. Okay, it varies from say 25 to 28 degrees centigrade in the Amazon valley. Okay, then but if you look at the highlands, okay, you'll find the highlands, the altitude of the Brazilian highlands is about say 1,000, okay, meters. So compared to the Amazon valley, you find Brazilian highlands have a cooler climate because of its altitude. Now, what about places near the coast? Now, places near the coast have a mild climate as well as a humid climate because it is near to the sea, okay, or rather the ocean, that is the Atlantic Ocean. Now, let us come to the amount of rainfall received, okay. So, if you take the Amazon region, okay, now the Amazon region receives a very high amount of rainfall, and when you compare it with the highlands, we find the amount of rainfall received here is low. Okay, so the rainfall in the Amazon Valley is 2000 millimeters, while the northeastern part receives about 1000 to 1200 millimeters of rainfall. Okay, so the amount of rainfall received in the Amazon Valley is more. Okay, and this has resulted in the formation of the rainforests, okay, or rather the Amazon rainforest. Okay, so but we find the amount of rainfall received along the eastern coast is just about 1000 to 1200 millimeters, and beyond the highlands we find to the say northeastern part of the Brazilian highland, the amount of rainfall is only about say 500 millimeters, and this region is a drought region, or in other words, this is known as the drought quadrilateral. Okay, children, so I suppose you have understood the climate of Brazil. Okay, we'll continue with the next session. Okay, so till then, thank you.